Hey guys, Net Live. Special guest today is Nick from C3 Nick podcast. He's one of my friends and he's a really nice guy. And he has a pretty interesting story. He's been through a lot of stuff in his life, and I think that I've been hanging to actually interview him for a long time and give you guys some of the wisdom and things that he has in his life. So I'll just wait for him to jump on and we'll go from there. Hope everyone's well. Here he is. Nick is in the room. Just wait for him to join. Here we go. That'll work. 1 second. Hey buddy, how are you?
Good, man. Long time no see.
Yeah, very long. I'd like to welcome Nick to the show. Nick is a good friend of mine, and today I'd like to have the opportunity to interview him and talk to him a little bit about his life. So, Nick, thanks for coming on today, and how you been?
I've been real good, man. My pleasure to come on, and happy Father's Day to you, bro.
Thanks, bro. We're not celebrating that over wherever we are in this part of the realm, but
I don't
appreciate
care,
that.
man.
Happy
Fuck that
Father's
fucking
Day.
feminism
And
bullshit.
I don't even understand how we have two different ones, but like it's cool that we get two.
Happy Father's Day,
Northern
bro.
Hemisphere one, where it's sunny right
Oh,
now.
whoa. So you guys do have Father's Day, but it's a different day?
Yeah, bro.
Okay. I was about to get heated if you guys didn't have a Father's Day.
No, we have a Father's Day. We do celebrate that at the moment still. It's politically correct
For now.
still, I believe. Let's not go there. Anyway,
For
so
now.
Nick, tell me a little bit about yourself and where you grew up. You're currently living in Pennsylvania?
Yes, sir. Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, born and raised, city of steel. In my opinion, the best city on earth until COVID happened and stuff, but that's for another day. It's like, it's
Mario
been year
Lemieux.
in and out. What'd you say?
Mario Lemieux.
Yeah, buddy. You know, Ben Roethlisberger, Pittsburgh Steelers, City of Champions, man. City
Yeah.
of Steel.
Yeah.
We got the steel industry. Andrew Carnegie, he was the richest man in America at one point. He passed J.P. Morgan to become it. He's based in Pittsburgh. Nikola Tesla came here in Pittsburgh after Edison and them tried to destroy him. Yeah, Pittsburgh's got a very cool history. The only place in the world where three rivers meet at one point. Pittsburgh's got a cool history. It's voted #1 city to live in the world for many people. It's the #1 medical in the world. Google's rolling. I'm telling you, man, Pittsburgh's got more to it than people realize. And I've been stumbling into it.
Sounds like it's a city that like a lot of people probably forgot about.
Yes, it was forgotten about. That's a great way to say it because the steel industry was booming, and then obviously it collapsed. And like my grandfather was a steel worker and stuff, but it upset the area bad. Like my grandfather, I think, was an alcoholic because of that. Or I don't want to say because of that, but it certainly, he was an alcoholic during that era, you know, so that didn't help.
Okay, on that note, did your dad follow that trend? Was your dad into alcohol? Was your dad an alcoholic?
No, not at all. In fact, my dad is like, he's like the most strong-willed dude I know. He's like the most boss dude I know, frankly. He went from us being, you know, somewhat poor off, like to start, and just now he's like the most successful dude I know. He might be a millionaire for all I know. He like he never let me lie. He never let me give an excuse for something. It's like, well, the bottom line is it's not done, or you did this, or whatever. It doesn't matter like what you tell me. Like he was just very, very much an alpha male, dare I say.
Yeah.
And let me say this about him too. I resented him to the point of, it's a strong word, but honestly, I kind of hated my dad at points growing up. I hated him.
Explain that.
Well, okay, so he would always be coming home like angry. He had a bad temper. Sometimes he would be too much with it. Very stern and stuff. And it didn't help him that my mom would often be like, you know, wait till your father gets home or whatever. Like I could literally remember when I would hear his car pull up and he would come in the house, like I could feel it in my body. Like the vibe changed, bad, you know,
Interesting.
and so like,
Someone's presence can have that much influence.
oh my God, he had so much influence like that. Yet, let me also say though, he also would like. So this is the stuff I didn't know that like obviously started to turn me around on it. We were poor, but I didn't know it.
Yeah.
Honest to God, I didn't know it.
Yeah.
Like that's how well he hit it. He had so much stresses on him, but he never brought it home in that way. Like he always like tried to make time to get to our games and stuff. He would come home super tired, play some like rough house with us, like that we made him do, even though he's exhausted. And then like we didn't know it, but he'd put us to bed and he'd be going back to work. Like, you know what I mean? Like stuff like that I didn't know anything about when I hated him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why
were we hating him? Because he wasn't there.
Well, not that he wasn't there. He made time to be there, but like that when he was there, he was just like very stern, sometimes a dick, you know, because he was on a short leash at times. Like he had a lot of pressure on him.
He's like a hard man in a hard world. So like when he came home, he found it hard to integrate that into something that connected with the kids and everyone else who was on a different vibe. Like you said, the vibe changed.
Yes, big time. Oh, he also had to be the disciplinarian. See, that's what I came to realize about him. He wasn't doing all the hard stuff he did on me to be a dick. In fact, he's like the biggest hearted dude.
For the fucking world.
Yes, he turned me into a man. He turned me into a man with that shit. Like honestly, I realized later, had he not been there and it was just my mom, I would have rolled all over her, man. Mm-hmm. I would have rolled all over her and she would have bought it the whole way. Like I could always sell her on shit like emotionally. Mm-hmm. Like, oh mom or whatever, you know, please help me. You know, like eventually she'll do it.
Yeah.
My dad's like, listen, I love you, and because I love you, I won't do it.
Yeah.
It's tough love. I look at men and women like kind of like women are very much good for giving us the short-term necessary love we need daily. It makes the world go around. That's why I'm like in emotional connections are more important than anything else. So women are more adept at that like day-to-day emotional kind of make sure you're nourished daily.
Yeah.
Men don't get credit for this, I don't think. In fact, they get scolded sometimes because they don't see this. But men do what they do, good men, for the long term. They're looking at it like
that's a really interesting perspective on love. And when you think about it, like it kind of is in a way, because a lot of the man's love is actually remote. It's working. It's doing something like the stupid construct of the way that we run it right now, where we have to work to eat and everything else like that, instead of everyone having enough sustenance for survival just being a basic minimum of our ability to control the elements in nature, right? Like, how can humans not fucking have stuff to eat now, like easy, on demand? Like, I don't understand. I really, truly don't understand how like local communities aren't all pitching in, growing food at scale for what they need. Like, it just makes sense, right? But that hard man is a man that is there because he's seen what weakness does to a man.
Yeah, exactly. There's no sympathy for us out here, young men. That's what I'll tell you. And guess what? You shouldn't be wanting any or desiring any. That's like the that's kind of the point of being a man, if you ask me, for lack of a better word. Hardship. Enduring.
Yeah, there's an element of suffering to it. Like, if you're going hard enough or you're trying, like, some people get it easy. Some people are lucky, and that's all the power to you. If you've been given a role in this life where like it's easy and you just have a cruisy life, congratulations. Do something like good with it. Do something that's needed with it. That's your obligation. If you're having struggle, then fucking embrace the struggle. I reckon the struggle's the obstacle, it's the way. Like, I truly look at everything that's ever happened bad to me and I see a benefit in it.
Yeah.
Even the horrible things.
Well, Nate, I look at it like this, man. Law of averages, not some like hippy dippy nonsense. The law of averages mathematically would say that for all the bad you go through, there will naturally be an equally opposite good at some point. So the worse you go through in life, try to remember that at the time.
This too shall
I'm
pass.
going to have an equally opposite good as a result of this by obvious consequence, just of law of averages, give and take, you know, universe.
Yeah, I agree.
So the hardships are actually, so it's like this. You can't have black without white. You can't have good without bad. The contrasts need to exist
for
you to understand, let alone appreciate the good side.
Yeah.
So you have to
So
have
so your
bad stuff.
hardship's actually just giving you a perspective for later.
Well, right. Otherwise, if everything was good all the time, it would actually become neutral. You wouldn't understand it or deviate it from anything, let alone appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's always it's like a wave fluctuations, like a sine wave. I think there's always an up and a down to everything, and
Exactly,
I
bro.
think it's
Sine
about
wave. I'm an
being
audio
aware of
guy.
it and riding it. So let's talk about some of the downs in your life. Let's talk about some of the places where you've fucking turned out of and got to be a quite a level-headed man now and a really interesting person to listen to speak about lots of varied topics.
Okay. You want to? Oh man. I mean, I have so many, man. You got help me figure out one.
Okay, we'll start with something that like happened that was like pivotal young, or in like your teenage years, or whenever you started to, feel like you're doing the wrong thing.
All right. So I'll give you a really good one. My buddy I grew up with, he was like the nicest, coolest, sweetest kid ever. He always like boosted my confidence. I trusted his taste a lot. Him and I were really tight. We were almost like cousins. I would
Yeah.
sleep at his house on school nights and stuff, and his mom would make sure I get to school, and vice versa. He'd be at my, you know what I mean, like that kind of relationship. He'd get bullied and stuff, and I would always like kind of defend him. Just the sweetest dude you could imagine. Well, he ended up. Long story short, he got into like we all kind of like dabbled with weed and other drugs like in high school and stuff, but he went off the deep end with it and got into heroin eventually.
Mm-hmm.
And by like 20 years old, he he died. You know what I mean? He overdosed and died like before we were even like 21. And up to that point, I thought I was like such a strong-willed person that like I could never get addicted to anything, man. My mind's too strong. Like I would never let that happen. And uh, that messed me up. And then like less than a year later, just when I was like kind of getting over it, like my other two good buddies, like almost brothers, I would say, extended family, they drowned. They were brothers. They like drowned tragically. So that like really that messed me and my whole group up. And I was like working at a pizza shop at the time, and on Friday nights they would like all take like Vicodins and like call them goofballs and willies and stuff, and like they would have fun and just laugh and shit and like.
But the
They always try.
uneducated, what does Vicodin do to you?
Vicodin is a painkiller. It's an opiate, and it's in the family of like heroin's like, and then now what's it called? Fentanyl are like the very very strongest of opiates, but Vicodin is basically a prescribed legalized opiate that's prescribed for pain.
Okay. Yep.
And it has a very similar effect. Most people that become heroin addicts, they do so because they get addicted to painkillers like Vicodin, and then they can't source them anymore because the doctor cuts them off, or like for whatever reasons, and they're addicted without having realized they became addicted, and now they have to go find it somewhere else, and you can't find them anywhere else on the street, or they cost too much money, so they end up like ultimately resorting to heroin. Same story for me. But yeah, so they were all taking them all the time and offering them to me. And I'd be like, no, man, my friend fucking died from opiates. Like, I don't want to take that shit.
Mm-hmm.
And like, over time, they were just like, dude, come on, man, you're always sad. And it's not the same thing, dude. A doctor prescribes this shit. And look at us. Like, do we look like we're fucking junkies? Like, I'm looking at them like, no, these assholes look like they're actually having a lot of fun all the time. And like, I was miserable, man. I was miserable for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And after all that, and eventually, like, yada yada yada, I succumbed to it and I took them, and it made me feel like way better at the time. And from there, just long story short, like many years, slowly, surely devolved into like doing harder legal opiates, and then, like I said, you can't source them anymore or whatever; they're too expensive, and you do heroin, and then from there, it's like you're hooked. It's a wrap.
And when we're looking at heroin, we're looking at injecting it or smoking it.
Well, honestly, that's kind of what like I think saved my life. I'm glad you asked that. Like, I used to get a lot of shit for this, man. They'd call me pussy and all that. I had heroin shot up by other people into me a few times, and don't get me wrong, it feels way better than snorting it. Like, there's something to it to be had that they. But for me, like, I was such a dude. This is funny to admit, but to this day, a phobia for needles like saved my life. I truly believe that because like to
Interesting.
this day I
That's
go to,
funny. So
yeah,
being shit scared of needles stopped you from getting high as fuck and potentially ODing.
yeah, because I already OD'd it and stuff a bunch of times just sniffing. You wouldn't believe, dude. I went off the rails
I
with
didn't
it.
even know you could sniff
Um,
it. I didn't know you could sniff it.
well, it's called China White. It's like the high pure heroin. Like you can't sniff like black tar heroin like most people get in the world, but like
Yeah.
so Pittsburgh and like other places are big drug hubs, and like it's China White, so it's like it's just like powder. You know what I mean? You can sniff it
Okay.
up the nose. In fact, it's like
Okay.
I hate to say this, don't do this, kids, obviously, but like it feels very good. It's like the only thing in the world that I've ever tried that like doesn't hurt when you sniff it. It like feels very nice.
But it's also extremely expensive. No, sorry, extremely addictive, and can also just take your life in you underestimating how much you have.
Oh, it will take your life. Like, dude, this is why I had to like after many years trying to figure out a way to make it work and shit.
Okay, so
There's
talk about
no
rock bottom. Talk about that bit there where you're ground out in the bottom of this hole of this numbing.
it's hard. Let me think of how to like put this all into.
Yeah, take your
So like I was a very industrious druggie.
time.
Um,
Yeah, nice. Yeah,
like I approached it like you ever see like the movie Goodfellas, like the
yeah,
gangster movie?
yeah. I think it was. Yeah.
That's like the kind of fucking people I grew up around, and real like that's what I call like real shit, like real gangster, whatever. I'm not trying to glamorize it either, kids, but like so this is a crazy story, man. I went around. I was always looking to supply the city of Pittsburgh with good dope, like good
That was
heroin,
your
raw,
goal.
pure heroin.
It's look, kids. It's good to have goals in life. Keep going. Yeah.
Well, let this story play out, kids, before you decide to run like this. And because Pittsburgh was like a major hub for it, but like there was an untapped market, and I was always a business guy. Like I said, my dad's the best business guy I've ever seen. So I like learned a lot of lessons from watching him, and like just took him off the rails into the street hard, like embraced it, you know. And I was driving around, so I was looking to supply with good dope because it couldn't be found, not by me, not by anybody. But there was a
Scratching your own
major,
itch.
well, yeah, for
If you're
sure,
looking
for
as an
sure. But
entrepreneur, that's what you're doing. Yeah, you're scratching your own itch. Yeah.
dude, that's exactly the kind of drug addict I was like, dude, I need to get this for myself, and I see a major market for this, like win-win, right? But the problem was I couldn't source it. Nobody could. So like my industrious ass, I got up the wise idea, like me and this young homie of mine are gonna drive around the city, and I'm gonna go up to all these kids saying I can get fire dope or whatever, like $30, here you go. If it's half as fire as you say it is, go get a sample or whatever. If it's half as fire as you say it is, I literally got tons of money in the bank. I'm going to put down on bricks right now. And I looked at it like an investment. I was like, these kids are almost certainly going to run away with my money or like not come through on the quality they say they do. But on the off chance that somebody does see my hustle out here, and like sure enough, somebody did, and he was in like a really nice car, and like he was dressed in he was a black dude. He's like a real gangster as far as I could tell. Like they don't let on. They're very like pimp, like upstanding, like boss kind of guys. Well, he's like, I want to take you to my brother's house, and he takes me down to the fucking hood. Like I grew up in the
Yeah.
hood. This like
But this is
I'm
the
talking,
hood. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
bro. I'm talking. I was the only white guy there.
Yeah.
Everybody's looking at me on the way in. He has scouts and everything out. The only reason I'm allowed coming in is because I'm with him. And like, so I get down there, and by this point, I was like a serious heroin addict because I was like selling and funding my habit and still making money. I was really bad, and but I never let on. Like that was the big thing with these guys. I was always making sure not to let on, even if it meant like getting up when I was strung out and like taking a shower before I go see them or whatever. And so, like, sure enough, that got them to trusting me a little bit because I came to realize about these kind of guys, like they have
Consistency
nobody
is
in
the
the
thing.
world.
Yeah.
Well, they have nobody
Yeah.
in the world they can trust. And this like white guy that's like, you know, kind of coming through a lot often. And I was very unassuming. Like I'd never asked them any questions or anything, but like they would just start like divulging things to me. And they got to trust in me.
Yeah.
And like, so I ended up like through all this, I ended up like buying a fucking car, dude. I was like making my own stamp bags is what they call it. I was buying stamps on the internet and stamping the bag with my own logos, like Sprite, Coca-Cola, and
Yeah,
shit. I was
branding.
literally,
Yep.
I
Yep.
was the guy
Yep.
in the city. Everybody's talking about the Sprites and the Coca-Colas to this day, as far as when I left the game. You know what I mean? Like that was like, it was
Yep.
legendary stuff. So I was making a lot of money for this guy. And one day I come down there, and this like real out of place looking white dude is on his roof of his garage next to his house, playing around with a pole, and on the top of it, it looked to me like a camera. And I was like, bro, I don't know what's going on over there, but like, not looking good. He's like, oh, good look, man. I'll have my people take a look at it. And I come down the next day, and where that dude was playing around, there's like a very big, suspicious, out of place looking teddy bear there. And I was like, dude, I don't know what the fuck's going on up there, but like, I'm sketched out. I'm not going to be coming down here for a while. I advise you to like lay low, get out of here too. He's like, good look, good look. And he disappears off the face of the earth on me. Like, I don't know what happened to him or whatever. And this was my guy, dude. Like, it fucked me. I had a car payment and shit. Like, it fucked me. But like, that's part of what kind of helped me start realizing like how bad of a spot I was in. Anyways, so I never like messed around in a way where I had to burn my phone, which means like people carry on burners a lot, like they fake
So explain to
numbers. You
people.
can so you can buy like a cell phone every month that doesn't have your name attached to it.
Yeah.
They're cheap little fucking phones.
And that cell phone's not traceable to your name.
Therefore, you can burn it. That's what they call it in the street. Just burn it. Get rid of it.
Yeah.
And I didn't really play around like that. So like I always had the same phone number, even after I got clean and shit. And like years later, after that story with that guy, I did get clean and all that. And I ended up getting like a random phone call. Hello? Yo, you know who this is? I'm like, I think so, man. What's up? He's like, bro, you fucking saved me, man. You saved me from a bid. I owe you. Come through, man. Come through. I want to see you. I was like, ah, man, thank you. Like, that's cool. I'm happy to hear that, I guess. But like, I'm good. I'm like not doing that anymore. He's like, bro, what's the matter, man? You don't got no money? I said, I owe you. You saved me a bid. Come through. And like after a while of having to like appease myself to him or whatever, like explaining like I'm good, man. I'm out to life and stuff. He eventually like gave me his good graces, and he was like, bro, I understand that. I respect it. Yeah, my good graces, like you won't get no problems from me and my people. Just let me on my way. And that's kind of like the only reason like I luckily got out of the street life, by like endearing myself to him. So like by seeing that fucking weird fucking agent on the roof, like people ask me like, do you think they put like I don't know what they were doing up there, but they're like, do you think they put the teddy bear up there like to alert you there's like a sting going on or something? I was like, I don't know what they were doing, but it certainly wasn't for my benefit. I don't know what the fucking idiots were doing with the bear or whatever. I just happened to notice
weird things that happen, and then people just you'll have to get out of there. Yeah. Well,
my homeboy senses were going off.
That's what they do, bro. Like even when we were in Canberra, they put up a surveillance thing right next to the tents. Like they literally had a thing that had like 15 cameras on it, and it had license plate recognition on it, had all sorts of shit on it, and they just had that solar panels. So yeah. It's like we have that relationship with the law. So let's talk about more of that stuff. Let's talk about you having to deal with court or anything to do with what you've now come to understand as the fiction.
Why don't you explain to people what you mean as the fiction real quick, if you would?
Okay, so we have a name that's attached to us, and part of that name being attached to us is that we're not completely of an inner standing or overstanding of what that name means or possesses or does to us. But that binding of that name is where all contracts and agreements happen with you as a person, as the flesh person, because you own that name. When they say that name, you go, yeah, it's me. And you're not acknowledging that name puts you in a position where you're then contracted with. So let's talk about where you've been contracted with, my friend, and some of the lessons that you've had or how it's gone.
You're fucked, for lack of a better term. So can I swear on here, Nate?
Yeah, you can do whatever the fuck you like.
Crazy one. Awesome. Am I delayed, by the way, man?
No, you're good, man. I'm getting you loud and clear. All good.
Okay, cool. The chat turned off on me, so if there's any good comments, like, please relay them.
Yeah, I've been pinning.
That happens on the screen.
There's one about Mick said that fentanyl is the biggest drug problem in Australia, along with morphine. I never feared the pin till the backs. Yeah, cool.
Heroin is derived from morphine. Morphine is a naturally occurring alkaloid, and this is actually an interesting thing that I came across. Endorphins actually means endogenous morphine, the morphine that your
Oh,
body
really?
produces.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, the morphine that your body produces. So there's a lot of people that try opiates or whatever, and they're not into them. And
Yeah,
that's a big question. Like, how do people become so hooked on them, and other people are just don't like them?
yeah,
And I read an article one time that it just made sense to me that since it means endogenous morphines, the obvious conclusion would be that people that become hooked on them are people that are supplementing a low endorphin level.
yeah.
They're naturally low in endorphins, so people like me or whatever that became hooked on it, like just a supplement.
Hmm. Yeah,
If that makes sense. But
yeah. That
I'm
makes
sorry,
sense.
what was your question?
No, my
Court.
question was an experience that you've had with anything to do with the legal system and part of your journey on the way down to on the way back up.
This is on my way back up, dude. This is a win for in the course, man. Like you wouldn't believe. So after I got out of the life and stuff, and I was like redeeming my life, I decided to like go live with my parents who were beyond gracious. They saved my life, letting me do all this because like money was not an issue for me. There was a lot of problems I was having by being that high in the game that you don't account for when you're getting to that high in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for instance, money was like a major trigger for me,
Mm-hmm.
like stuff like that. Like, I couldn't be making money like that. I had to like literally not have it, or else
So
I'd be fucking.
let's talk about money. So when you were working in that industry, um, you had money, right? Life was easy. You could do things. You could make maneuvers. Talk about the psychology of when you're making money like that in comparison to doing a job where you're trading your time for money like a slave.
It's very well,
Psychologically, it fucks you, right?
yeah, but doing that, you're trading your time for money. That's the mistake that you make at the beginning, thinking it's easy, quick, timeless money. Not only are you trading your time for money, you're trading your fucking life, your relationships, everything, how people look at you and you look at life for money, and ultimately you're trading your soul for money.
Because you
And that's
generally
why I had to get
identify
out
as
of
a
it.
job. I'm an electrician. I'm a this. Like when you go to a dinner party, one of the first questions a lot of people ask is, "What do you do?" Because everyone has that commonality to it, right? We're
I'm in
all,
sales. That's what I
yeah.
used to say.
I'm in sales.
That's what I used to say all the time.
Yeah. So many people like there's an identity thing where we're all stuck in that construct. We identify as this or that, and if you don't have a job, you have no self-worth. If you don't do certain things that fit the rest of the picture for everybody else, you have no value. So it's like we're going through a shift in that now as well, where they're going to offer you free value for a universal basic income and some other stuff, which is going to be like, fuck, man, they're going to delete our debts, really? Oh, that'll be amazing. Yeah, because your money's not really a thing. It's fit. Again, like we talked about fiction earlier, same thing, right? That's where we are. So yeah, back to legal. Let's go.
No, that's awesome, man. Dude, I love your insight on the law.
I
So I
just
think you're pretty.
it's interesting, man. It's interesting, and the markets right now and everything is fucking mental. Like we are going through a soon purge, and the housing market in the states is starting to dry up. Apparently,
Dude, all I gotta say is I've been calling this shit, man.
I was
I'm
reading
on
that this
record
morning.
having called this shit for like 2 years. On my pod, like it's all on record. It's all on video. I've been call. I honestly like I pride myself on trying to just put facts out there. I don't think I've been wrong on
You
anything that
haven't,
I've
bro.
called.
No, you haven't. You pretty much caught it all. And that's the thing is like, if you pay attention long enough, the writing's on the wall, right? There's too many things that they've done that like you can't have this many people locked down for this long and think that economies can still be booming or think that housing markets are going up or think that anything else is happening. You have to realize that like everyone's productivity and any profit they would have made was handcuffed. And if it wasn't, it was supplemented by a government with fake currency that they printed, which means that you get hyperinflation later.
Hmm.
There's no way ifs or buts around what's coming. It's there and it's self-evident. And yeah,
Fuck it, man.
it is what it is.
I'm in here. I'm enjoying the surf in the shore, and I got my popcorn in hand.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. Because it's like, it's. I think we're a little ahead of the curve, and I think that it's going to come sooner than later. But it's going to be, I think, a little while still. I have my patience with it. I'm just sort of waiting and learning little things along the way towards that point. So give us some more learnings. Your dad sounds like a really stand-up guy, bro. Like, it's interesting that you went off the rails. Describe why to me you went off the rails when your dad was such and you despised him, when your dad was such a person that would be considered a role model in a lot of aspects.
Okay, so I could really sum that up. Like, by their standards, like I'm talking like school and my parents, everybody else. And by the way, I don't put any stock in these standards. Like, I'm talking about their standardized tests and grades and all that shit.
Mm-hmm.
They would claim they said I was a smart kid. You know what I mean? So like, so by their standards and all that, I had intelligence at least. Then I prided myself on trying to be intelligent and all that. I was always humbled by it.
Oh,
Like,
you were underutilized potential.
well, dude, I was always like achieving, doing good grades and all that shit.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time I get to like, I think it was like sixth grade, I was super ambitious, and I had started a band with a couple friends, and like I was really serious about doing that. I mean, every day after school, we'd practice like 3 or 4 hours until my parents wouldn't let us anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And we were really serious about it. And I started getting to the point where I was questioning my parents. I was like, "Look, I'm learning nothing in school these days. Like all this stuff they're teaching me day to day is bullshit,
Mm-hmm.
and you're telling me I have to go to school so that I can go to college to get a good job."
Mm-hmm.
And I'm telling you, like, that I have the idea that I want to do for a job right now. I think we are getting it together for our little minimal that we can get together and practice. But like, if I was putting that time that I was going to school into doing this, I guarantee I'd be successful by now.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't even be like fretting over that shit. I wouldn't be sleep.
Yeah.
And they were like, "Well, you make a good point, but like, there's nothing we can do about it. It's the law." Like, and so by that, I was like, "All right, well then, fuck you guys too then." And
Isn't that the weakest fucking answer as the reason why you're having to go to school? It's the law.
Well, it's. I understand where they were coming from. They were in a tough spot, but that's kind of where like I'm not having kids at the moment. But it is a weak answer. I would never let my kids go to fucking public school. That's for sure.
No, it's crazy now. Crazy.
It's beyond crazy, dude.
One of those things where,
leave them to themselves, honestly, in a room alone. I bet they'd figure life out better than if you fucking send them to public school. They're indoctrinating your kids, people. They're brainwashing them.
I was thinking, like, if a kid went in the general flow, as in channel of direction of their interest, say, for instance, your kid was interested in construction, like one of my kids is, if I let him go off and start, like, learning about different aspects of that, by the time he was, like, 12, I reckon he'd have a really good understanding of what he liked about different trades and different things, and he'd know all the tools, and he'd be actually really engrossed in what he was doing. And it's a multitude of things you can do from that junction versus learning in a system that has like a pecking order, and you fucking cut down all the kids that can get bullied because they just can, and you manipulate what they learn, and you indoctrinate them, and you teach them conformity. Everyone faces the front, everyone sits still, everyone sits this far apart. Everything's regimented and executed in a way where any bits and edges of you that stick out all get chopped off into this cookie cutter system. And
boom, bro. That just answered your question. What you were asking, what set me off the rails?
Yeah.
That, in a nutshell. I saw right through it. I saw all that happening. I called it out. Again, they said I was smart. So by their standards, if I'm calling all this out and you guys don't have a good answer for it, like, how am I fucking with you? You know, and that's what sent me off to the deep end, like not cool with my family, hiding stuff from them, living in the street life, all that.
Yeah. That was it.
Yeah.
And describe how that happened. What was it? It was like from there you just started with the weed stuff, and then that was the segue into the heroin, or like was there more steps along the way? And when you got to your lowest point, and you needed to get out, what was the most significant moment? Hey, Rob.
Many more steps along the way, and many yada yada yadas, like many years after like smoking weed with my friends harmlessly, more or less, here and there. Different like party drugs.
While we're here, do you think that's a gateway drug?
Yes, I do, but let me tell you why, with a caveat. I think it's a gateway drug because it's illegal.
Interesting. So that's why it only gets grouped with those other classes of things.
Well, that's no, because it's grouped with those other classes. When people inevitably fall into it because it's so common in the world, and they see their friends doing it, and they're like, they're not nearly as fucked up as they make them out to be. In fact, they don't even seem as bad as people that drink. Maybe it's not as bad as they make it out to be. So you try, and you're like, wow, I actually feel pretty good. It's nothing like they made it out to be. Maybe coke's not as bad. Maybe ecstasy's not as bad. Maybe heroin's not as bad. That's why it's a gateway drug.
So because it actually crosses that line, there's a differentiation where people feel like it's in the same class as all this other stuff. So then it's then becomes one of the many, and it's like, well, I tried this, so why not try that?
Bingo. Well, meanwhile, weed, in my experience, is much different than that. Well, first of all, it's a naturally occurring herb. All the other drugs aren't.
Think about now over there where you are, right? Like, is it legal in your state?
With a prescription or whatever they call it.
Still medical. Okay, so you're still doing medical, but a lot of the states now are completely legalized, right? So imagine being a kid, and I personally don't think before 25 is a good age to ever smoke. If that's a recommendation as far as trying any sort of substance, I don't think you should try anything before you're 25. That's the honest truth about a man, and I think our psychology and where we should be, but each to their own.
Because your brain's not formed yet, right?
Yeah, correct. So 16, 17-year-olds now in your state, or even 21, coming up to that junction, they would now see a plethora of other options as opposed to just alcohol and that sort of stuff that they would do. Like, weed would generally be hidden, but now it's actually in the open over there. Describe how you think that part of things probably is shaping this generation differently to what you went through. Because you were persecuted for it, right?
Oh, yeah. I feel like me and my brother and people from my generation, we were trailblazers with it. We were like openly like flaunting it to our parents. Like, it's not this crazy shit you guys make it out to be. So, yeah, we were persecuted for it.
Yeah.
Now, it's a good movement in principle to have it legalized. But the trouble is, like, all they did was like that just means the feds are in it. Like, they're making money off of it and they're regulating it and they're doing all that. So like, it's not exactly a free market or anything like that. And in fact, from what I'm learning, a lot of those dispensaries are growing like artificially enhanced cannabis.
Like that PSG or whatever it is?
Well, even if it's just real cannabis, they're like using like hydroponics and extreme lights and combining like very crazy strains together. It's just not a naturally occurring thing anymore so much as like
So it's becoming something that's a little bit out of control as far as like what people are getting for trying to get the benefit of it.
Yeah, it's compromised the integrity of it, if you ask me, in some ways.
Yeah. So then is there a market, is being an entrepreneurial man like yourself, is there a market for that then, to actually have, organic, good farmed, quality ways where it's like maybe more balanced in aspects?
Some people I may know hypothetically, like they do that. Yeah. They're like those guys, you know what I mean? They're known for that kind of thing. So absolutely there's a dark market for that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Do you have brothers and sisters?
Yeah, I'm the oldest. I have a younger brother, and then my sister's the very youngest.
Describe your relationships with them.
Very good. Great, I would say. And they're kind of pretty incredible people considering like we were saying, I went off the rails and stuff. And so the good and the bad came from that. Like I was always trying to be a good brother to them. But like I would always hide stuff from them too, kind of. And maybe even do them wrong in certain ways. And the good and the bad is, I don't know. They were pretty cool for me to hang in there with, considering all this shit I put them through, so to speak, even like reputation wise or just stuff like that. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. They're incredible people. I'm their I'm their uncle and aunt for their kids or whatever it is. You know what I mean? My nieces and nephews with them, and it's pretty amazing at this point to see them doing that and like how cool we are. So yeah, my relationship with them is amazing. How many
nieces and nephews do you have?
I have my sister who has 2 nephews who I was just hanging with earlier today. Actually, they're awesome. They just dinosaur all day.
Yeah.
And then my niece is my brother's first kid, who is she just turned 1.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah, cool. Um, what do you think is your relationship and responsibility to these kids being the uncle? Like, do you take it as something being serious and bestowed upon you as an opportunity, or is it something that like you're casual about?
I try to do both because I'm very serious about it and I want to be influential and stuff, but I realize my lane and my place, and I differ a lot with my, for instance, my sister. My brother and I are pretty similar when you get down to it, but my sister and I, like, she has very different views on many things.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and and I just respect my spot. I try to, it's not my place to tell this. If the I don't know. It's a very hard spot to be in. You know what I mean? It's kind of a line you have to walk. Because I want to obviously shoot them straight like I would like it if I were their age, but at the same time, like I know she don't like when I shoot them straight. So it's a strange spot to be in.
So yeah, Uncle Nick has to reserve himself a little bit.
Oh my God, dude, that's the story of my life lately. I feel like I'm not even myself. Like with
Okay,
ninety
talk about
percent of
that. Talk about being genuine in the aspect of how you're showing up as, and talking about the need for conformity sometimes to survive.
Well, yeah, it is a need. It's not. Yeah, it's to survive and just to be polite. And I
Why?
know it's not.
What are you trying to make? What are you trying to save or maintain that you're having to sacrifice or compromise?
Basically, I feel like 95% of my interactions with other people, I'm never like actually saying what's on my mind or like
Because
what
you
I'm.
can't be genuine with them like you can in a conversation with me, or what is it?
Absolutely, yeah.
Why is that?
For many reasons, but society is just like they get emotionally bent out of shape, or they're not able to like they don't want to see where I'm coming from necessarily. They're just
Why is the world so triggered?
um, a big reason. I mean, it's obviously our own responsibility at the end, but we've been heavily manipulated in ways that we never imagined to be exactly that.
And reactivity plays directly into the way they want you to be in this space now. They want you to get enraged. They want you to. That's if you look at the algorithms on Facebook as an example or anything like that. Hey, brother, you realize that what it's looking for is that click rage. It wants you to get enrolled up in it, and something that they know triggers you appears a lot more in your feed than a lot of other things. And the idea is that it curates to that. There's that energy exchange, and I think about that, even that just that touching of that button, and like someone in a podcast recently we were talking about. I can't remember who it was. Talking about like the meridians from fingers and toes and stuff like that. And if you think about your phone and touching with your phone and typing and texting, you're actually using all your pressure points a lot, right?
Mm.
In your phone, in your hands. So even the liking and the endorphin of pressing a button and engaging in something has an emotional something. There's some sort of thread going on there where people get addicted to this thing, and it has this currency that we're trading.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
It's interesting. It's. I've lost Nick. Hopefully he comes back. So it's just me for a second. Well, I hope you're enjoying the show. I just thought I'd hang out for a bit and chat to Nick. Nick's a good friend of mine, and he has a really interesting story. We'll try to get deep with one more story before we go. Got a little bit of time left. Probably start for another 15. Just wait for him to come back. Sometimes they boot Nick. So Nick's onto his third or fourth account. If you're not following him already, please do so. He's a very heartfelt man and honest and interesting person. And he brings on a lot of good people who have interesting chats. Very diverse offering. He talks about the feminine and relationship a lot. It's quite interesting. We'll just see if he comes back. I'm watching a little bit of what's going on in Canberra. There's some court cases today. Some friends of mine probably are going in for some stuff. Again, this government won't honour or respect the fact that it hasn't got jurisdiction and won't actually put anything to paper to confirm that jurisdiction since 1973. It's never been ceded. Nick always gets booted. Yeah, Nick's heavily censored, same as myself, same as a lot of us. Look, we do it because we do it. I'll see if I can add him. I'm not very good at this adding thing. Let's see, Nick. Let's see if it comes up. Oh, I think I've got him 1 second. And every time I go to invite him, it moves him. There we go. I invited him. Cool. Here we go. He's back. Except. What's going on, brother? You got booted.
Yeah, that happens a lot. Don't mind me.
Bro. Censorship. So, where were we? Let's give them one more story before we go. So, tell us a crazy story, Nick. Tell us something in your life that happened and you don't know how you got through it, or don't know how you survived, or a near miss. What happened? Talk to us.
Ah, man, there's really a whole lot, but hear me?
Yeah, I got you now.
Okay.
Shit's trying to fuck with it. Come on, bring it in. Let's go.
Yeah. They always do that, man, but they ain't stopping us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Nate, can I do this on here?
Yeah, man, you can do whatever the fuck you like. You can smoke weed, you can do whatever you like. Fine.
Nate's the man, people, and I'll tell this story in just a second, but Nate, do you remember it all? Like, what did we hit it off about? Or like, how did we get to know each other while I do this, if you don't mind?
If I remember correctly, I don't know who I found first. So there's like 3 people that I am close friends with in this circle, and it's Nick, Dr. Assad, and Mars. And I met all of them at the same sort of time, and I don't remember whose profile. It might have been one of yours. I don't know who added who first, but I either followed you, you followed me, or one of the other guys, and then I found all their stuff. And literally, like, I've had so many serendipitous moments and conversations that I've listened to and been a part of over the time as being your friend, and I really appreciate you as my friend, mate. You're a really nice guy, and so is Dr. Assad and Mars. I love and appreciate all you guys.
Likewise, bro. If I'm not mistaken, I think that I met you. I think I followed you, but either way, we met each other through Isaac, and then from there you probably found Mars and Dr. Assad because I was having them on a lot together.
There you go.
Yeah, I remember all that. That's cool.
Cool, very cool. Yeah.
Yeah, but so what was like so how's your cause going on? Can I turn this interview for 1 second?
Yeah, you can flip the interview, bro. Go for it.
How's your cause going on in Australia right now? Because that's one of the biggest things that like I really appreciated about you, man. What you were doing over there.
Yeah. As far as like anything to do with the government and everything else like that, now it's at a muted point. Like, we had a lead up to an election where there was going to be sort of stuff happening and things were like a little bit crazy. Like, as far as we had a lot of people go to Canberra after we went. So the first trip was like in December, and then since then there's been hundreds of thousands of people attend. Nothing's happened or changed. It's been completely the same consistency from the government side. We've now had a change of leadership, and right now everyone's just gone back to business as usual in Australia. Everyone's forgotten, right? Yeah, last night was winter solstice, which is the darkest, longest night, and then now we're going into winter. So people don't realize that the next couple of months we're either going to be in a lockdown or have some sort of issue that's going to come up, because this year's been very uneventful, right?
Exactly, bro.
Right?
Lola needed to sleep.
Canada had their riots. America had, you guys had the run on Parliament, on the whatever that fucking
Congress.
Yeah, right. You've had stuff, right? But no one's had anything big. There's been no tea attacks. There's been nothing else, right? It's been a lull of everything. Like, Al Qaeda just goes away when there's COVID, right?
In fact, yeah, exactly, bro. And they lax the regulations and shit. Like
they couldn't get tissues, so those guys just fucking ran away. that was their problem, right? They couldn't get out of it. So we have this situation right now where nothing's really happening. But if you look at the stock exchange, like 110 or 111 billion dollars got wiped off the ASX in one day the other week. If you look at silver and gold, they're both getting pumped. If you look at all the numbers in all of the markets, there's big shit about to happen, and they're talking about it flipping from a bull market to a bear market. They're also talking about over in the States that your interest rates are fucking causing your housing market to fucking grind to a halt, and they're noticing directly in open rates and everything else like that, and mortgage brokers and stuff like that are already signaling that stuff's going on. So they're talking about food shortages all the time. In Australia, they warned us that they're going to have a fucking blackout, right? They said the other day, like, all 5 states affected. Demand, how we have a supply and demand issue? If we have, like, more rain, which means it goes more water through our water turbines down in the Snowy Mountain River scheme for our electricity from there. If we have all the other systems set up, unless something's off grid, how do we have a supply demand issue? We haven't created all these fucking people that all of a sudden turned on a toaster. Like, there's a thing where something. Oh, also too, power plants have been catching on fire, and fucking
amazing.
Illawarra power plant caught on fire the other day. Like,
amazing,
catching on fire and going offline. Right? There's been in the food industry in the States, it's like 160 places or some shit like that have blown up or burned down in the last 6 months.
None of it's reported in the mainstream news. None of it.
It's
Go
there
figure.
in a fucking fine print on one page about there's been a fire somewhere, you know?
Bro, to say that's not a conspiracy, you'd be naive. But, like, oh man, I could go on forever about that. It's just it's beyond egregious, and I know what's coming because I just read their documents. I've read their documents for a long time, since I was younger, and stumbled into them on the internet. And I came to conclude that, like, dude, they put everything, almost like they're bragging or whatever in their documents, because I came to realize that, dude, nobody reads, and they know that.
Yeah, like, no one reads terms and conditions, and no one reads safety stuff. And
no one reads anything, dude.
What the government discloses, and they disclose virtually everything if you look for it. About
they disclose it all, but dude, nobody reads anything, dude. I'm telling you, like, yeah. I often encourage things to people, like, they're like, where did you learn about that? Can you send me the video or the link or whatever? I'm like, yeah, here's the link, and it's like a document, like, because I don't really watch videos or I don't have cable. I don't watch Netflix, Amazon, none of that shit. I don't even really like YouTube videos, like. Because I feel like the stimuli, the video and the audio, as an ex-druggie, I became very aware of my physiological symptoms when I was being addictively pulled to something.
Yeah.
And I noticed that with TV at one point. I was like, I haven't watched TV in like 2 weeks now. I should look into how much it would save me if I canceled my cable. And just the thought of that, like, gave me like physiological anxiety that, like, I was like, holy shit, this feels like an addiction. And I realized it was. And at that point, I cut it off, and that was like 2 years ago or so. Like, I haven't looked back. I would recommend it to everybody.
2 things you've touched on there is, like, the fact that there's an energy exchange with all this stuff, like I was talking about earlier with the touching with the thumbs and everything else about the trigger points. There's also the scrying mirror, which is the black mirror, which is what they used to do spellcraft into. And if you think about the spelling that we're under, and we languish in the language because we get stuck with this dead name, and they contract against it because we're slaves, and all this other shit, and we go round and round and round in this fucking circle because we think we're spinning on a fucking ball like maniacs when it's sunny over where you are and where I am.
Oh, shit, don't go there, bro. You don't want to go there, man.
So
I'll get this shit shut down real quick.
Because I'm in my winter solstice, so 21st of June was the longest day for you guys, and you're in the furthest part of your track, and I'm in Cancer, so that would mean your sun's in the Tropic of Capricorn for you. Would that be correct?
I have no idea, but I was born a Capricorn, so like I'll represent that. That's cool.
So Tropic of Cancer is where it is now. And yeah, so it's at its furthest point. And so what you watch now, guys, is you'll see over every day the sun come up slightly going in the opposite direction that it's just come from. And you'll see by the time it gets to the middle of your winter that it'll be at the opposite part. And for me, it'll be at the opposite part. So there's some correlation to where we are in direction as to the way that goes. So I think
Yes.
I'd love to follow that with someone over there. I'd love to follow the left and the right of where the sun comes up every day. For me, it's on the right-hand side when it comes up in the morning. So that would be like southeasty, sort of more at the start of summer. And then all the way through summer to winter, it goes to the other direction. So it's like a northeasty sort of sunrise. So if you're looking at it from a reference in direction, that's what sort of happens for me. I'd love to know where Nick is on how that goes, if it's the same direction or is it flipped, right?
I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure. I'm pretty sure it goes from like northeastern quadrant, more or less, but mostly east, to like
yeah,
southeastern quadrant. If that makes sense.
yeah, yeah. Interesting. Yeah, yeah. The sun and where it comes up and stuff like that is really interesting to follow over a period of time. Like if you get the chance to do it over a couple of months and weeks. Yeah, I don't prescribe to people that believe that just scientists are the answer and that they have all the answers, because I don't have a god or someone that I see as I don't have anything arching over me. So anarchy means to have no archy, right? And if you think of the archies, what are they? They're like patriarchy, right? Matriarchy, like all those sort of words are about having control over. And so, yeah,
Hierarchy.
I don't feel like anything usurps my power. So I don't look at a scientist as being all knowing. I prefer to go out and use my senses, and my five senses give me my inner standing of what actually is, and the stationary plane to planet plane that I'm on is easy and self-evident to see. And I can use a camera to zoom in past the horizon and see those disappearing boats, or I can use it to stare really close at the fucking moon and spin out what the fuck that is, because I don't understand it, and then look at all the stars around it and follow every one of those motherfuckers and know what the wandering stars are, but also know what the other constellations are, and look at individual stars and watch them jump around on my viewfinder like they're all bouncing. It doesn't make sense, and they dance like light, right? There's things that people will tell you, oh, it's this rock thing. No, Saturn ain't a fucking rock. Venus isn't a rock. Mars isn't a rock. None of them are rocks, because they all perform like the rest of the stars. They all act like the other stars. They
Dude,
are of the same thing because they look and act similar, and they're not of a matter that you can land on. Let's put it that way. And when the moon disappears, it really fucking disappears. Although in some photos, when you take them with your camera, it sometimes seems like the hue of it is there, like a really dark black hue. But then when you look at the moon during the day, when it's a half crescent, the other part really disappears. We have a minute 59, Nick. You have the floor, brother. Break it down.
I can't believe you just fucking teased me like that with a minute 59 to go. There's so many
Go
topics
on,
I was just
brother.
making mental notes about. I was like, I'm gonna nail that one, nail that one, nail that one,
Go for
corroborate
it.
you.
Get a minute 59. Let's go, because they're
All
going to
right.
cut us off.
How about this?
Minute
I'll
41.
wrap it up just short and sweet. First rule of science, it's not consensus, which means it doesn't matter how many people say something is true. If it's wrong, it's wrong. Even if one person says something's true and everybody else says it's wrong, it doesn't matter. It's true if it's true. So like fuck that, like trust the science. And the other rule of science, question it. It's always questionable. That's what science is. And it's repeatable testing. You test things over and over again. It's observable. It's definitive. It can't be ignored or denied. That's when it becomes scientific law. But these are all theories that everybody's working with, like gravity and all that shit. Hasn't been proven over 100 years since it was proposed. Cut it out. Nate, thank you for having me so much, man. I really appreciate you, bro.
Brother, you're awesome. You're a very good friend, and I appreciate you, and I appreciate the insights and introspection and the poignant questions that you ask people. Very, very good at what you do, and I'd like. Oh, Jared, it is first question everything. Yes, thank you. It's the truth. Question everything. Question me. Question
That's what I was
fucking.
going to say. Question me, too.
Question
An honest
every
person tells
motherfucker
you
in the
that.
room.
Question everything, including
Right?
me.
Yeah, man. Like there's no higher authority. There's no fucking anything but you to decide. Stop allowing other people to live rent free in your head and be the thing that makes you compromise logic. Like, fucking actually go hard at inner standing and knowing what life's about, because you get one shot at this. 7 seconds. Go to
Hey, what in your lived reality, people, would make you conclude that you were living on a spinning